for months, we've heard about the threat of domestic terrorism, of domestic extremism, the argument being made that January 6th is reflective of the overall Republican Party and that our democracy is under siege. And idiots, and I say idiots, like Joy Behar, because I do believe she's an idiot, on The View, said if Republicans are back in power, they will start censoring journalists. They will destroy us. Listen to this argument from the imbecile Joy Behar, who is right up there in neck and neck with Joy Reid to be the dumbest people on television in America, which is saying something. Listen to Behar.
I read a lot about what's going on in the world, and Hungary and Poland, and they're doing very badly with freedom of speech. They now have, let's say the autocrat who's running gets like 90% of airtime, the other one gets 10%. They are, censoring journalists. That will happen here. That will happen here, I think, if the Republicans are back in power. You can see that they're intractable right now. You cannot reason with these people. They are shameless, and they will destroy us. I sound like it's hyperbole, but I've been around a long time, and I say what can happen.
You're an idiot. The people who are getting censored, Buck, are people like you and me.
Yeah, I was going to say,
we're
Democrats. Getting shut down right now on a regular basis. They've hit my Facebook account again recently. By the way, it's always unmasked stuff. So now we're at a point where the Democrats are admitting that cloth masks don't work against Omicron, which is just another way of saying it never worked, by the way. Oh, the virus, it's so much bigger, it's so much more transmissible. Give me a break. But you're not allowed to say it if you're not a part of the in club, if you're not a part of the tribe of the Democrats and the Fauciites. But I also, when you hear Joy Behar saying the stuff that she's saying here, and the fact that she's on TV, and this is a woman who's paid millions of dollars, folks, to share her opinions on television, which is a stunning, in some ways, a stunning indictment of American culture, but also, hey, you can be a total moron and make millions, folks. That's the good news. You don't have to know anything. You can be an ignoramus, not be good at anything. So I guess that's almost inspiring in a weird way. You can be like the worst student in the class and no one cares. But I hear her saying this stuff about the censorship and the authoritarianism that she fears. And it is amazing, the deafening silence from not just journalists, but from supposed civil liberties groups about what is clearly collusion at the very top of the federal government right now. The president of the United States, Joe Biden, is openly saying to the biggest media companies in the world, shut down people that are saying stuff I don't like. If Donald Trump had control of, had in his back pocket, I should say, Twitter, Facebook, Google CEOs, and was saying, hey, shut down those crazy commie libs, which would have been amazing and I would have laughed. But the point is, everybody on the left, every Democrat would have acted like, we were in the midst of the Third Reich's ascension to power, which, by the way, they were doing that anyway, but still.
It's wild, and we talked a little bit about this, Buck, but I think we even underplayed it on this show. You brought it up. Rasmussen did a poll, and it was asking people, hey, what do you support in the Democratic Party? And we've heard so much discussion about far-right extremism domestically. How about far-left extremism and what is considered acceptable by Democratic voters? Listen to this, Buck. 59% of Democratic voters support house arrest for people who are unvaccinated. That's almost 6 out of 10. They want house arrest, in other words, for National Guard, for police, for members of our military and armed forces to ensure that unvaccinated people are unable to leave their house. And it gets worse from here, Buck. 48% support prison for questioning vax efficacy on social media. Buck, they believe that you or I sharing data about the vaccine and what it does or does not do should justify us being imprisoned. 45%, nearly half of Democratic voters support internment camps for people who are unvaccinated. And then finally, and you hit on this, but I think we need to keep hammering this home. These are extremist opinions, by the way. 29% support the state taking away the children of the unvaccinated. I am unvaccinated, Buck. 29% of Democratic voters believe that I should not be able to parent my children. 45% of Democratic voters believe I should be in an internment camp. 48% of people support prison for you and I for questioning whether the vaccine is efficient or efficacious on social media. And 59%, Buck, support house arrest for me. I shouldn't be able to leave my home because I'm unvaccinated. That is extremism by the majority of the Democratic Party.
Well, this is why I think it's important for everyone listening to this. And remember, we talked about those stats earlier. It's worth reiterating them. People need to know them. We talked about it earlier in the week because it was so jarring to see when they came out over the weekend from Rasmussen polling. You cannot trust the judgment of people who would want any of those things on any issue, by the way.
Yes.
They are morally bankrupt. There is something wrong with them. They have been brainwashed by the collective in this country, by the apparatus of control, and they no longer can make reasonable, rational decisions that take into account that this is supposed to be a free country. They are abandoning that entire concept because they're all so terrified, but also because of the otherizing, the stigmatizing that has come from the very top of the regime, from Joe Biden himself, pointing out people that have not only refused to get a vaccine, but at time and time again have been proven to be correct in their questioning of whether or not this is actually going to work the way we've been told. Fauci and all the people that propped him up are abject failures. Our response to COVID, really from the very beginning, has been catastrophically inept and stupid and counterproductive. And there has been zero accountability for this. And the people who are in charge, doesn't matter how much data comes in, and the people who are pushing for this stuff, it doesn't matter how much those who can afford to suffer the least from the economic and psychological impact of this are immiserated by it all. They think that they have a almost divine right to be in charge. And so we're just a challenge to that now. We stand in the way of the total control that they seek, and nothing else really matters. Taking away someone's children? I mean, Clay, a lot of people listening are saying, the state tries to take away someone's kids because they won't get a shot. Those are the kind of actions that lead to violence. Just to put in context how extreme that belief is. I don't have kids, you do, but if I had kids and the state came and said, we're taking your children away because you won't get a shot, I'm not saying, oh, okay, I'll see you in court. That gets ugly.
Not only that, how about somebody knocking on your door and saying, we saw what you posted on Twitter about vaccine efficacy. Turn around, we're putting you in cuffs, and we are taking you out of your home right now. And we're going to put you in an internment camp if you are unvaccinated. Again, historical context matters. And I would just ask people as we go to break to think about this for a moment. When have the people who have ever supported internment camps ended up on the right side of history? When have the people who have supported government arrest for political opinions ever ended up on the right side of history? The scary thing here, Buck, is these Democrats, and this is true historically too, the people who support things like this don't do it because they think they're bad people. They do it because they think they're on the side of truth and justice. Historically, ultimately, they get judged for those failures. But this is scary that we could end up in a position where mass delusion has taken over substantial impact parts of the Democratic Party as it pertains to COVID punishment.
Why would we not take the internment camp thing seriously, Clay, when Australia is already doing a version of that with their COVID camps? And let's also remember that, of course, it was a Democrat hero, FDR, who actually put Japanese Americans in internment camps, less than 100 years ago.
Yes, and it took Korematsu. Remember, the Supreme Court said it was okay. The Supreme Court, the smartest judges in the land,
one of the ugliest decisions in our history. Yep.
That's right. They had to eventually reverse that decision, but the passions of the moment led even the most smart among us to make awful decisions. Why would we think that history isn't going to repeat itself sooner or later? You can argue that it's happening right now with COVID. This is a modern day version of how internment camps happen.